The dark void of space suddenly filled with bright lights as 200 massive alien ships appeared near Earth's sun. Each ship was the size of a small city, their metal hulls gleaming with strange patterns that seemed to shift and move in the starlight. They had traveled across the galaxy to reach this small blue planet, and they had not come in peace. Admiral Keffer stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Worldrunner. He was tall and thin, with gray-green skin that looked like old leather. 4 yellow eyes studied the glowing screens in front of him, each one showing different information about the planet his fleet had found. His long fingers, ending in sharp claws, tapped against the metal rail as he watched the data flow across the displays. For 300 years, Keffer had done this same job. He would arrive at a new world with his fleet, study the local people, and then give them a simple choice: join the Zeltharan Dominion willingly or be destroyed. In all his years of service, he had never found a species that could stand against the might of his ships. Some tried to fight, others begged for mercy, but the result was always the same. The Dominion grew larger, and another world fell under. Their controlled Earth looked like it would be no different from the others. The planet was the right size, with plenty of water and a breathable atmosphere. The third planet from its star, it had 1 small moon and showed all the signs of supporting life. Long-range sensors picked up radio waves and other signals coming from the surface, proving that the locals had at least basic technology. But compared to the Dominion's advanced science, they might as well have been throwing rocks. "Report," Keffer commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. The other aliens on his command crew moved quickly to their stations. They had learned long ago that their admiral did not like to wait for answers. "Initial scans complete, sir," replied his science officer, a shorter alien with blue skin and 6 arms. "The planet shows standard life signs: oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, multiple continents, large bodies of water. Population appears to be in the billions, concentrated in urban areas along coastlines and river systems. Technology level?" Keffer asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Primitive, sir. They appear to have basic spaceflight capability, but nothing that could threaten our ships. We detect nuclear weapons in their arsenal, but their delivery systems are crude. Chemical rockets, simple satellites, nothing more advanced than early atomic age technology." Keffer nodded slowly. It was exactly what he had expected. These humans, as the species called themselves, were barely more advanced than animals. They had managed to split the atom and send small ships into space around their own planet, but they had not even reached their own moon in any meaningful way. Their most powerful weapons would barely scratch the paint on his smallest escort ship. "Any signs of defensive installations?" he continued. "A few space stations in orbit around their planet, sir. Maybe 20 or 30 small facilities. They appear to be research stations and communication relays, nothing military. We also detect some satellites, but they seem to be used for communication and weather monitoring." The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. This would be easier than most conquests. The humans had not even tried to build proper defenses for their world. They were completely unprepared for what was about to happen to them. "Move the fleet into intimidation formation," Keffer ordered. "Standard sphere pattern around the target planet. Power up all weapon systems, but do not lock onto targets yet. Let them see what they are facing before we begin negotiations." The massive alien fleet began to move with smooth precision. Each ship knew exactly where to go, having practiced this formation hundreds of times before. Within an hour, 200 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around Earth. From the planet's surface, they would look like bright new stars that had suddenly appeared in the sky. On Earth, people noticed the new lights immediately. Telescopes around the world turned toward the strange objects, and within minutes, the truth was clear. Alien ships had arrived, and they had Earth completely surrounded. News reports began broadcasting around the clock, showing images of the enormous vessels hanging motionless in space like silent threats. Keffer watched the humans react with satisfaction. Their communication networks buzzed with activity as they tried to understand what was happening. Some of their military units went to high alert, though their primitive weapons would be useless. Their leaders called emergency meetings, trying to figure out how to respond to visitors from another world. But what pleased the Admiral most was the fear he could hear in their transmissions. The humans knew they were outmatched. They understood that these ships could destroy their entire civilization if they chose to do so. This was always the moment Keffer enjoyed most in any conquest, when a species first realized how small and helpless they truly were. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving multiple transmission attempts from the planet. They appear to be trying to establish contact." "Let them try," Keffer replied. "Monitor their communications, but do not respond yet. Let them worry for a while longer. Fear will make them more reasonable when we finally do speak." The Admiral turned to look out at the stars through the wide viewport at the front of his bridge. Somewhere out there was the next world his fleet would conquer, and the one after that. The galaxy was full of primitive species waiting to be brought under Dominion control. Soon, every inhabited planet would serve the greater glory of the Zeltheran Empire. But first, he would deal with these humans. Like all the others, they would learn to kneel. 3 hours after the alien fleet appeared, the humans made their first move. A small group of ships left Earth's orbit and began moving slowly toward the massive alien formation. Admiral Keffer watched them approach on his viewing screen and almost laughed out loud. The human ships were tiny compared to his mighty warships, like insects flying toward a dragon. "How many ships are approaching us?" he asked his tactical officer. "7 vessels, sir. They appear to be their largest military ships, but they are still very small. The biggest one is maybe 300 meters long. Our escort ships are twice that size, and this flagship is 10 times larger." Keffer nodded with satisfaction. Even the humans' best warships were pathetic by Dominion standards. He could destroy their entire approaching fleet with a single shot from his smallest weapon. But destroying them now would be wasteful. Better to let them come close and hear what they had to say. Sometimes primitive species said amusing things before they surrendered. "Are they armed?" he continued. "Yes, sir, but barely. We detect some kind of nuclear missiles and basic energy weapons. Nothing that could penetrate our shields, even if we turned them off. Their weapons might be dangerous to other ships of their own technology level, but they cannot hurt us." The lead human ship was called the UN's Endeavor, though Keffer did not care about its name. What mattered was that it carried someone who wanted to talk instead of fight. This was always a good sign. Species that tried to communicate usually surrendered faster than those that attacked immediately. On board the Endeavor, Ambassador Chun Wei prepared for the most important conversation of her life. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes, chosen for this mission because she was one of Earth's best diplomats. Her job was simple in theory, but difficult in practice. She needed to convince these aliens that humanity was weak and primitive, while secretly buying time for Earth's real defenses to get ready. Chun knew things about Earth's military that the aliens could never guess. She knew about the hidden weapons platforms scattered throughout the solar system. She knew about the cloaked ships waiting in the asteroid belt. She knew about technologies that made the aliens' weapons look like toys. But most importantly, she knew that humanity had been preparing for this day for 50 years. "Incoming transmission from the alien flagship," reported her communications officer. "They are responding to our contact request." "Put it on screen," Chun ordered. She took a deep breath and prepared to play the role of her life. The alien that appeared on the screen was exactly what Earth's intelligence services had expected. Tall reptilian with cold yellow eyes that looked at her like she was an interesting insect. His uniform was covered with symbols that probably showed his rank and achievements. Everything about him screamed arrogance and superiority. "I am Admiral Kethfer of the Zulthuran Dominion," the alien said. His voice was deep and rough, translated by computers into English. "You will identify yourself and state your purpose." "I am Ambassador Chen Wei, representing the United Nations of Earth," she replied, making her voice sound nervous and uncertain. We come in peace. We hope to establish friendly relations with your people." Kethfer made a sound that might have been laughter. "Friendly relations? Little human, you do not understand your situation. Your planet is now under the protection of the Dominion. You have two choices. Submit willingly and become part of our empire, or resist and be destroyed. There are no other options." Chun let her face show fear, though inside she felt only cold determination. "Sir, please understand, we are a young species. We have only just learned to travel between planets. We mean no threat to your mighty empire. Surely there must be some." "Wait a ... Silence," Kethfer interrupted. "I have heard these same words from 1,000 species before you. Some accepted our generous offer and now live peacefully under Dominion rule. Others chose to fight and became nothing but dust floating. In space, the choice is yours, but you will choose quickly." Shun appeared to think desperately, her hands shaking slightly as she gripped her chair. How long do we have to decide?" "Your planet has 48 of your hours to surrender," the Admiral replied. "During this time, my fleet will remain in position around your world. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. Any attempt to attack us or flee will result in immediate destruction." "Am I understood?" "Yes, sir," Chun whispered. "We understand. We will need to consult with our world government. This is a very big decision for our people." Kethfer waved one clawed hand dismissively. "Consult with whoever you wish. The result will be the same. Your species will kneel before the Dominion, one way or another." The communication ended, and Chun allowed herself a small smile. The alien admiral was exactly as arrogant as Earth's intelligence had predicted. He saw only what he expected to see, a primitive, frightened species begging for mercy. He had no idea that every second of delay was allowing humanity to prepare for war. Back on his flagship, Kethfer was pleased with how the conversation had gone. The human ambassador had shown proper fear and respect. Her species clearly understood that resistance was hopeless. In 48 hours, Earth would surrender and become another jewel in the Dominion crown. "Sir," his science officer reported, "we are detecting increased communication activity from the planet. Multiple transmissions between their government centers and military installations." "Expected," Kethfer replied. "They are probably arguing about whether to surrender immediately or waste time with futile preparations. Monitor their communications, but do not interfere. Sometimes it is amusing to watch primitive species panic." What the Admiral did not know was that the increased communication activity was not panic at all. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, humanity's true military forces were receiving their orders. Hidden bases powered up weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Cloaked ships moved into position around the alien fleet. Defensive systems that existed only in the deepest classified files began their activation sequences. Chun transmitted her report back to Earth using coded language that sounded like normal diplomatic chatter. "The alien commander appears confident in his superiority," she said. "He believes we have no significant defensive capabilities. Our estimated timeline for full preparation is holding steady." The reply came back quickly. "Understood, Ambassador. Continue delaying actions. Operation Sleeping Giant is now active. All units report ready status in 18 hours. Chun smiled again as she ended the transmission. The aliens thought they were giving humanity 48 hours to decide whether to surrender. What they were actually doing was giving Earth's military 48 hours to surround them with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Admiral Kethver settled back in his command chair, confident that this conquest would be as easy as all the others. In 2 days, Earth would belong to the Dominion, and he would add another victory to his long list of achievements. He had no way of knowing that in 2 days, his fleet would be running for their lives, carrying news that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The humans were not the primitive prey species they appeared to be. They were predators who had learned to hide among sheep, and they were about to show the universe exactly how dangerous they really were. The next day passed slowly for Admiral Kethvar. He watched from his command bridge as the humans continued their pathetic attempts at diplomacy. Every few hours, Ambassador Chun would contact his ship with new questions and requests for more time. She claimed that Earth's governments were still debating what to do, as if they actually had a choice in the matter. Kethver found their desperation both amusing and annoying. The humans kept asking about the terms of surrender, what would happen to their people, whether they could keep some of their independence. These were all normal questions that defeated species asked, but the Admiral was growing tired of pretending to care about their concerns. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the humans are transmitting another data package. They say it contains complete information about their military capabilities." "Display it," Kethver ordered, though he expected to see nothing impressive. Holographic display showed Earth's entire military structure, or at least what the humans claimed was their entire military. Kethver studied the numbers with growing amusement. According to their data, Earth had maybe 3,000 warships total, most of them smaller than his escort vessels. Their space stations were few and lightly armed. Their planetary defenses consisted of basic missile systems and simple energy shields. "This is what they consider a military?" laughed his tactical officer. "Sir, we could destroy their entire fleet in less than an hour. Their technology is centuries behind ours," added the science officer. "Their ships still use chemical rockets for propulsion. Their weapons are primitive nuclear devices. They do not even have proper energy shields on most of their vessels." Kethver nodded with satisfaction. The human military was even weaker than he had originally estimated. Their 3,000 ships would not last 5 minutes against his 200 dreadnoughts. It was almost sad how completely outmatched they were. What the Admiral did not know was that everything he was seeing was carefully crafted lies. Hidden deep inside the moon, Admiral Sarah Chun Martinez coordinated humanity's real response from the most secret military facility in the solar system. The data package that Kethver had just reviewed showed only Earth's public fleet, the ships and weapons that were meant to be seen by alien visitors. Chun-Martinez was nothing like the nervous Ambassador Chun that the aliens had been talking to. She was tall and hard-faced, with scars from battles fought in distant star systems. Her uniform carried the insignia of Terra Command, an organization that officially did not exist. For 30 years, she had prepared for this exact moment. "Status. Report," she commanded from her underground command center. "All Black Fleet units are in position," replied her tactical coordinator. 15,000 stealth ships spread throughout the solar system, all running silent and undetected. "Deep strike platforms?" "Ready, sir." 800 heavy weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt, fully charged and locked onto alien targets. "What about the outer system defenses?" "Project Looking Glass is active. All enemy ships are being tracked by quantum sensors they cannot detect. We have complete real-time data on their weapons, shields, and internal systems." Chun Martinez smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were watching a primitive species panic and prepare for surrender. In reality, they were completely surrounded by the most advanced military force in known space, and they had no idea it even existed. The deception had taken 50 years to perfect. After humanity's first contact with hostile aliens at Proxima Centauri, Earth's leaders had made a simple decision. Never again would humanity be caught defenseless. They built two military forces, one that everyone could see, and one that no one would ever suspect. The public fleet was real enough. 3,000 ships that looked impressive to human civilians, but were actually decoys designed to make enemies underestimate Earth's true capabilities. Behind them hid the Black Fleet, ships built with technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Quantum drives, gravitic weapons, temporal shields. Humanity had spent decades developing weapons that most alien species would consider impossible. "Sir," reported her intelligence officer, "we are receiving coded updates from Ambassador Chun. The aliens remain convinced of our weakness. Admiral Kethver appears to be growing impatient with our delaying tactics." "Good," Chun Martinez replied. "The longer he waits, the more time we have to study his ships. What have we learned about their technology?" "Their weapons are powerful, but crude, sir. Plasma cannons and particle beams, effective but predictable. Their shields are strong, but they use a rotating frequency we can counter. Most importantly, their ships are not designed for combat against opponents with stealth capability." Chun Martinez nodded. The alien fleet was impressive by the standards of most galactic civilizations, but humanity had been preparing specifically for this type of encounter. Every weapon, every defense system, every tactical doctrine had been designed around the assumption that Earth would someday face technologically superior enemies. Back on the world render, Admiral Kethver was losing patience with the human delays. It had been over 30 hours since his ultimatum, and the humans were still requesting more time to consult with their government. Their latest message claimed they needed to hold votes in something called United Nations before they could officially surrender. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "Ambassador Chun is requesting another meeting. She says Earth's leaders have reached a preliminary decision but need clarification on some terms." Kethver sighed heavily. "Very well, but this is the last delay I will tolerate. If they do not surrender in the next few hours, we will begin bombardment of their military installations." The communication channel opened, and Ambassador Chun appeared on screen looking even more nervous than before. Her hands shook as she held a datapad, and her voice trembled when she spoke. "Admiral Kethver, thank you for your patience with our ... our democratic processes. I have been authorized to begin discussing terms of surrender, but our leaders have some questions about how the transition would work." "Speak quickly," the Admiral replied coldly. "Well, sir, we would like to know what will happen to our existing government structures. Will our leaders be allowed to continue in some capacity? And what about our military forces? Will they be disbanded or integrated into your forces?" Kethver found these questions tedious but expected. Defeated species always worried about these. "Details. Your current governments will be dissolved and replaced with Dominion administrators. Your military will be disbanded immediately. Some of your people may be selected to serve the Dominion in minor roles, if they prove useful." Chun appeared to consider this, looking back and forth between her datapad and the screen. "I see. And what about our colonies?" "We have small settlements on Mars and some of the outer moons. All human territories will become Dominion property," Kethver interrupted. "This is not a negotiation, Ambassador. These are the terms of your surrender. Accept them or face destruction." "Of course, sir. I just need to make sure I understand everything correctly so I can explain it to our people." Chun paused, then asked quietly, How long do we have to make our final decision?" Kethver checked his chronometer. 8 hours. When your planet's sun rises over your largest continent, you will transmit your surrender, or we will begin bombing your cities. This conversation is over." As the communication ended, Chun allowed herself a small smile. 8 hours was more than Enough time. In 8 hours, the alien fleet would discover that they had made the biggest mistake in their species' history. They thought they were about to conquer a helpless world. Instead, they were about to learn why humanity had spent half a century preparing for this day. The deception was almost complete. Soon, Admiral HFY would learn the difference between humanity's public fleet and their black fleet. He would discover that the primitive weapons he had been shown were just the tip of an iceberg that stretched far deeper than his worst nightmares. In 8 hours, the galaxy would learn a new lesson about the species from Earth. Humans were not prey animals waiting to be conquered. They were apex predators who had learned to hide among sheep until the moment came to reveal their true nature. 8 hours later, Admiral HFY stood on his bridge watching the sunrise over Earth's largest continent. The humans had not contacted him since their last pathetic conversation about surrender terms. Their silence could only mean one thing. They had finally accepted that resistance was hopeless. Soon they would transmit their official surrender, and another world would join the Dominion. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through," HFY ordered. He expected to hear Ambassador Chen's voice, probably reading some formal surrender document, but the face that appeared on his screen was not the nervous diplomat he had been talking to. This was a different human entirely, older, with gray hair and cold blue eyes that reminded him uncomfortably of a predator studying its prey. Her uniform was black with silver insignia he did not recognize. "I am Admiral Sarah Chun Martinez, of Terra Command," the human said in a calm, steady voice. "You have committed an act of war against humanity. Your time for peaceful withdrawal has expired." HFY blinked in confusion. "What are you talking about?" "Your ambassador was negotiating surrender terms. Where is she?" "Ambassador Chun completed her mission 12 hours ago," the human admiral replied. "Her job was to keep you distracted while we prepared our response. That task is now finished." Before HFY could respond, alarms began sounding all across his bridge. His tactical officer was staring at his displays with a look of complete shock. "Sir," the officer stammered, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. Unknown contacts are... they're everywhere." HFY spun around to look at the main tactical display, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The empty space around his fleet was suddenly filled with energy signatures. Hundreds, then thousands of new contacts were appearing on his screens, as if materializing from nothing. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Our sensors would have detected any ships in the system." "Your sensors can only detect what we want them to detect," Admiral Chun Martinez said from the communication screen. "For the past 48 hours, you have been completely surrounded by humanity's real military. What you saw before was just what we wanted you to see." The transformation happening around the alien fleet was beyond anything HFY had experienced in 3 centuries of conquest. What had appeared to be empty space was revealing itself to be full of human warships. Massive battle stations uncloaked near every planet in the system. The asteroid belt came alive with weapons platforms that had been disguised as floating rocks. Even more shocking, the debris and space junk scattered throughout Earth's orbital space suddenly reconfigured itself into defensive arrays. "How is this possible?" HFY demanded. "Our scans showed only primitive ships and basic defenses." "Your scans showed exactly what we programmed them to show," Chun Martinez replied. "Every piece of data you collected, every energy reading your sensors detected, was carefully crafted by our intelligence services. You never saw our real fleet because we never wanted you to see it." HFY's science officer was frantically working at his station, trying to make sense of the readings flooding in from across the solar system. "Sir, the energy signatures I'm detecting, they don't match any known technology. These weapons, they shouldn't be possible. Report." HFY snapped. "The humans have weapons that manipulate gravity itself, sir. devices that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, energy systems that draw power from quantum vacuum fluctuations. Their technology is not just advanced, it operates on principles our science says are impossible. Admiral Chun Martinez watched the alien admiral's face change from confidence to confusion to growing fear. She had seen this same expression on the faces of other hostile alien commanders over the years. The moment when they realized that humanity was not the primitive species they appeared to be. "Let me explain your situation," she continued calmly. "You brought 200 ships to intimidate what you thought was a defenseless world. You are now surrounded by 15,000 human warships, each one more advanced than your flagship. You are also targeted by 800 heavy weapons platforms hidden throughout this system." Kethver's tactical officer was studying his screens with increasing panic. "Sir, I count at least 50 different types of weapons locked onto each of our ships. Some of these energy signatures. I've never seen anything like them. What do you want?" Kethver asked, his voice much quieter than before. "Nothing complicated," Chun Martinez replied. "You will order your fleet to withdraw from this system. Immediately. You will return to your space and inform your government that humanity is not interested in joining your empire. You will also spread the word that any future attempts to attack human territory will be met with the complete destruction of the attacking force. And if we refuse?" Chun Martinez's expression did not change. "Then you will discover exactly how effective our weapons are. I should mention that we have been monitoring your communication since you arrived. We know the location of every Dominion world, every fleet base, every government center. Test us, and we will demonstrate why that was a mistake." The alien admiral looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were all staring at the tactical displays, showing thousands of human weapons pointed at their ships. For the first time in his military career, Kethver was completely outmatched. "This is impossible," he said weakly. "Our intelligence services surveyed this system. You had no advanced technology. Your ships used chemical rockets. Your weapons were primitive nuclear devices. Your intelligence services saw exactly what we wanted them to see," Chun Martinez explained. "Humanity learned a valuable lesson 50 years ago when we first encountered hostile aliens. We learned that the galaxy is full of predators looking for easy prey. So we decided to stop looking like prey." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "Every human ship you observed, every weapon you detected, every defense system you scanned, all of it was carefully designed to make you underestimate. U.S. We call it the public fleet. It exists specifically to fool species like yours into thinking we are helpless." Kethver's communications officer suddenly looked up from his station in alarm. "Sir, we're receiving surrender demands from ... everywhere. Every ship in our fleet is being individually targeted and warned to stand down." "Impossible," Kethver repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. "Admiral," Chun Martinez said, and for the first time her voice carried a note of finality, "you have exactly 60 seconds to begin withdrawal from this system. Any ship that remains after that deadline will be destroyed. Any ship that approaches human space again will be hunted down wherever it goes. Are we understood?" The main tactical display showed hundreds of targeting locks from weapons that Kethver's science could not even identify. His own fleet, the pride of the Dominion, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, was completely helpless against technology they had never imagined possible. For the first time in 3 centuries of military service, Admiral Kethver gave the order that would haunt him forever. "All ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "begin immediate withdrawal to hyperspace jump coordinates. Emergency departure protocol." As his ships began their retreat, Kethver realized that everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had just changed. Humanity was not a primitive species waiting to be conquered. They were apex predators who had been pretending to be sheep. The age of easy conquest was over. The Zeltheran fleet fled through space faster than they had ever moved before. Admiral Kethver sat in his command chair watching the tactical display as his 200 ships raced toward the hyperspace jump point. Behind them, 15,000 human warships followed at a distance, not attacking but making sure the aliens understood they were being escorted out of the solar system. "Jump coordinates locked in, sir," his navigation officer reported. "We can enter hyperspace in 15 minutes. Maximum speed," Kethver ordered. "I want us out of this system as quickly as possible." The Admiral's hands shook as he thought about what had just happened. In 3 centuries of military service, he had never retreated from any enemy. The Dominion fleet was supposed to be invincible. They had conquered every species they had ever encountered. But the humans had made them run away like frightened children. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving a final transmission from the human admiral." Kethver did not want to hear what the humans had to say, but he knew he had no choice. "Put it through." Admiral Chun Martinez appeared on the screen one last time. Her expression was calm and professional, but there was something in her eyes that made Kethver's skin crawl. It was the look of a predator that had chosen not to kill its prey, but wanted that prey to remember how close death had come. "Admiral Kethver," she began, "I want to make sure you understand what happened here today. Your fleet came to conquer what you thought was a primitive world. Instead, you discovered that humanity has been preparing for visitors like you for 50 years. She paused, letting her words sink in. "Every scan you performed, every piece of intelligence you gathered, was carefully controlled by our people. We wanted you to see us as weak and helpless. We wanted you to feel confident and superior. We wanted you to make exactly the mistakes you made." Kethver said nothing. There was nothing he could say. "You will return to your government and give them a message," Chun Martinez continued. "Humanity is not interested in joining any galactic empire. We do not want to conquer other worlds, but we will defend ourselves against anyone who tries to conquer us. Any species that approaches our territory with peaceful intentions will be welcomed. Any species that comes with hostile intent will be destroyed." The human admiral leaned forward slightly. "Make sure your leaders understand this clearly, Admiral. What you saw today was just a demonstration. The weapons we showed you represent perhaps 10% of our actual military capability. We have been preparing for galactic war for half a century, and we are very good at it." Before Kethver could respond, the transmission ended. A few minutes later, his fleet reached the jump point and disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the Sol system far behind. The journey back to Dominion space took several days, and Kethver spent every hour writing his report. How could he explain to High Command that the mighty 3rd Expeditionary Fleet had been defeated without firing a single shot? How could he describe weapons that operated on principles their science said were impossible? When his fleet finally arrived at the main Dominion military base, Kethver was immediately summoned before the High Council. The council chamber was a massive room filled with the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. Kethver had stood in this room many times before, receiving praise for his victories. This time, he faced questions about his defeat. "Explain yourself, Admiral," demanded High Commander Veltar, the supreme leader of Dominion forces. "Your report claims that a primitive species forced your retreat. This seems impossible." Kethver stood at attention and began his briefing. He described the human deception in detail, explaining how they had hidden their true capabilities while appearing weak and helpless. He showed the council recordings of the human fleet's sudden appearance and the impossible weapon signatures their sensors had detected. The council members listened in growing disbelief. Some of them clearly thought Kethver was lying or had gone insane. Others studied the sensor data with worried expressions. "These energy readings you recorded," said the chief science advisor, "they suggest technology centuries ahead of our own. Weapons that manipulate space and time itself. This cannot be accurate. I have triple-checked all data, sir, Keffer replied. The humans possess technology that makes our most advanced weapons look primitive. They have been secretly developing it for decades while pretending to be a young, weak species. High Commander Veltar stood up and walked to the large star map that dominated one wall of the chamber. The map showed the entire Dominion Empire. Thousands of worlds, millions of ships, billions of subjects. It represented 3 centuries of conquest and expansion. If what you say is true, Veltar said slowly, then everything has changed. The humans are not just another species to be conquered. They are a threat to everything we have built. Over the following weeks, the Dominion leadership debated what to do about the human problem. Some wanted to send a larger fleet to destroy Earth before the humans could spread their advanced technology to other species. Others argued that attacking humanity would be suicide based on what Keffer had reported. The debate ended when news arrived from the frontier. 3 other major galactic powers had tried to test human defenses after hearing rumors about the Dominion's retreat. The Korthak Empire had sent 50 ships to probe human territory. None of them had returned. The Stellar Federation had dispatched their best stealth fleet to spy on human activities. The ships had simply vanished without a trace. The hegemony had attempted to attack a human research station in neutral space. Their entire battle group had been destroyed in less than 30 seconds. The humans are not bluffing, High Commander Veltar announced to the Council. They possess the military capability to back up their threats. Any further attempts to attack them will likely result in retaliation against our own worlds. The Dominion's age of easy conquest was indeed over. For the first time in their history, they had encountered a species they could not defeat. Word spread quickly throughout the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated or attacked. The species that had seemed like helpless prey were actually apex predators. Within a year, the galactic balance of power had completely shifted. Other species began approaching humanity as equals rather than potential subjects. Trade agreements were signed. Diplomatic relations were established. Some alien governments even requested human military advisors to help improve their own defenses. Admiral Keffer never commanded another fleet. He spent his remaining years writing detailed reports about human military capabilities, trying to help the Dominion understand the new reality of galactic politics. But the lesson was clear to everyone who read his files. Humanity had taught the galaxy a simple but important truth. Appearances could be deceiving. The species that looked weakest might actually be the most dangerous. And sometimes, the best way to avoid a war was to be so prepared for it that no one dared to start the fight. The humans had scanned the alien fleet just once, seen everything they needed to know, and made a decision. Rather than reveal their true strength immediately, they had chosen to let their enemies reveal themselves first. It was a strategy that had worked perfectly. One scan was all it took to change the galaxy forever.